What's up guys, it's Ethan, and I have nearly 11,000 YouTube subscribers, but I haven't really talked about myself that much. I get the same questions all the time. How did I learn business? Where did I learn programming? How did I learn psychology? And I think for this video, we'll do things a little bit different. I'm 29, soon to be 30, and I'm gonna give you my story and the 5 lessons I wish I knew when I was younger. Check this out. And the first lesson that I wanna teach you is that in order to be successful in life, you have to like this video and subscribe. Guys, I really appreciate every single time I get a new subscriber. It really means a lot to me. This is a requirement to grow on YouTube. I hate saying it like everyone else, but it's a reminder. If you like this video and subscribe, you'll see more of my content, and I think you'll enjoy some of the things that I have coming out. So like this video, then subscribe. Okay, let's get to it. So my story starts off when I was in middle school. I went to a Christian school, very small, with 12 kids per class. Well, you could say I was sheltered, okay? I didn't necessarily have a great social experience. And as I grew older, I think that this had implications for how I socialized. I was kind of awkward, definitely the weird kid in high school. My father was a wrestler in high school and college, so at the age of 5, he actually got me into wrestling, which I then competed all the way out through college. And as a student, I always struggled. I was a C student in middle school. I wasn't good at math, and none of the concepts really came easy to me. However, I had a very large imagination, and I loved video games. I loved video games so much that I actually came up with new video games that I wanted to create. But my mom was a little bit concerned about this because she thought video games would be a distraction from my schoolwork, the most important thing. I specifically remember being in Barnes & Nobles and begging my mom to buy me a C++ programming book, which is a language that you can use to program, because I wanted to learn how to program. And she kind of considered that to be in line with playing video games, that if I learned how to program and make video games, I'd play a lot of video games and not focus on the most important thing, my schoolwork. I learned at a very young age that though my parents are very supportive of me, in order for me to get the things I want, I'm gonna have to make my own money and go after it myself. So in the 7th grade, I decided to buy a gaming computer from Dell. It was a $2,000 computer, and I was gonna have to save up in order to buy it. So I began cutting grass, shoveling snow. I even employed some of my friends. Whatever I could do to make money. I actually went around the entire neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking them if I can cut their grass. I only charged $20 an acre. I mean, that's a steal. And one of the things I learned is that anyone can cut grass. It's actually super easy, sitting on a mower, riding around your lawn. Where you make your impact, where you make your customer say, yes, I want Ethan to cut my grass, is in the edging and weed whacking. It's when you take the blower and run it down the driveway so there's no grass on the driveway. These last little steps were actually a very small amount of time, yet had massive impacts on whether or not someone wanted to rehire you. So lesson 1, pick and choose your battles. You can't win every single fight. So just save your energy for the ones that have the most impact. More than likely, if you try to win every single battle, you'll eventually decay and get tired and lose energy and ultimately just do everything mediocre. So after 6 months of cutting grass and 3 months of shoveling snow, I saved up enough money to buy a laptop. And I still remember the day when my computer came to my house. After all that hard work, I was able to finally begin to program and play video games. My parents had a vacation planned for the following week, and they told me I couldn't bring my laptop with me because they wanted me to experience the outdoors. We were going to Yellowstone National Park, and it was a big deal to them that I experience everything. And just to note, both my parents were blue-collared workers. My father was a construction worker, my mother was an MRI specialist, so they were never too familiar with technology. So not having a choice in the matter in the 7th grade, I went on the vacation, and then I experienced something. And in one of the museums, we were on a tour with a bunch of families, and I specifically remember that there was a little girl around my age that I thought was really cute. And being super sheltered growing up and not very well socialized, I didn't know how to interact. I've never really seen a girl that I thought was really cute before. At this point in my life, I'm 13, I've never had a kiss, I've never even had really any interaction with another girl. And I remember constantly looking over at her and coming back and hoping she wouldn't see me look at her, but I couldn't help myself. And at one part of the tour, I remember us watching something on a TV that was a very hard to read, black and white film of Yellowstone National Park, and no one knew what was going on. It didn't really make any sense. The screen was super small, and then the next thing you know, the credits came up. So everyone was super puzzled, and as the clown that I was, I remember going oh yeah. And everyone started to laugh. And she looked at me and gave me this big smile, and my heart just sunk. It was the craziest feeling I've ever had. And throughout the tour, we were actually put closer and closer together, and I was gonna say hello, I'm Ethan, or say something, but again, I've never interacted with a girl outside of the 12 kids in my class. In the end, I was too nervous to do it, and I didn't say anything to her. I left for the rest of the trip regretting my decision, and I decided right there that I would never not do something because I was too nervous. The pain that comes afterwards of regret is way worse than any failure I could have had. Lesson 2, take the risk because the pain from failure is far less than the pain from regret. I don't know her name, I don't know who she was, but thank you for that early lesson. It was one of the most fundamental ones that shaped my life. So fast forwarding a bit to high school, I was in all the basic classes. I was considered one of the less bright students. Taking all lower level classes, I knew I wasn't that smart. I made varsity wrestling my freshman year and won a state championship my senior year and taking 5th at national preps. I had some respect among my peers, but I was never seen as cool. I was always kind of in the weird groups. I also took AP Computer Science, so it's kind of interesting. I was in very basic classes, but I took AP Computer Science, which seems to be like a very tough course. I had to beg my counselor to allow me to take that AP class, which I then failed the AP exam. The one skill set that I definitely had was introspection, where I could tell right away that I wasn't able to learn as quick as the other kids. However, that doesn't mean I can't win, it just means it takes me more time, and that school setting may not be the best fit for me. Lesson 3, grit always wins. I can't tell you how many cases of students that were so smart in high school and college and ultimately panned out to do very little for themselves in the real world. It's the ones who've experienced failure and always know they're going to be okay, go see my confidence video for more information about that they can persevere and try again. Because again, they know they're going to be all right, and eventually they'll win. So eventually I went to college as a computer science major and a Division I wrestler. And at this point, most people considered me to be very smart, which was a new thing for me. I actually had imposter syndrome for a very long time, this feeling that I didn't deserve this title of intelligent. Now, the kids in my classes still thought I was pretty dumb in my computer science classes, but among everyone else, I was a smart guy. But in my computer science classes, no one ever wanted to work with me on group projects. They always asked to work with other people. I even specifically remember a time where there was a list going around, you had to sign up for different groups, and I picked a group of guys I knew, and then they took that list and erased all their names and put themselves in a different group. And yeah, that was definitely hurtful. But in the back of my head, I always said, you know what, it doesn't matter. I'll be okay, I'll show them, and I'll be okay in the end. And my senior year, I decided to start a company called StudyTree. Having trouble learning and studying myself, I thought there should be a technology or a tool that could help connect students with resources on campus, like an artificial coach or advisor. And Microsoft has this massive programming competition every single year called the Imagine Cup. So I formed a team and I submitted our project. This is one of the biggest college programming competitions in the United States. We had schools like Princeton competing, Duke, all the Ivy League, and this was the place to be if you were a computer scientist. And in 2015, I took the stage to present StudyTree. And in the end, we won first place, beating out all the Ivy League schools, beating out all the kids that were always considered smarter than me. Remember, grit always wins. So after winning the competition, I began pitching investors to try and raise capital so that I could run this business. Generally speaking, if you want to start a tech business, you have to hire people and you have to be able to pay for the expenses of the organization. And usually you don't have enough money yourself and it's too risky, so you go to investors and you ask them for money. Having just won one of the toughest tech competitions, Microsoft Imagine Cup, that was a huge validator for investors to know that we had something special. And in only a few weeks after, a group of investors was ready to give us $120,000. However, the members of my team all decided to take jobs, and I was left by myself with the company. When the investors saw that my team dispersed and got regular jobs after college, they withdrew their investment. It was a very tough summer. I began searching for new co-founders and I brought on multiple people, I fired multiple people, and there was this endless cycle of bringing on people and firing them until we got our first customers. And in entrepreneurship, depending on who you speak to, people have different sayings on how you can run a business. But the number one piece of advice I can give to anyone who's thinking about running a business is that the smartest person isn't the one who can read the quickest or comprehend or can do the most math problems. The smartest person is the person who can learn from other people's mistakes. By learning from other people's mistakes, you can expedite your growth and not making those mistakes and speeding yourself along, sidetracking from obstacles and getting to the finish line as quick as possible. So this is rule number 4. It's a really big one. Learn from other people's mistakes. When running a business, it's actually very easy to get advice. There's actually a lot of advice out there from all different types of people, your family members, your cousins, expert investors, and they all have different agendas in mind. Determining what is good advice versus what is bad advice is actually the hardest thing to do. And having ran this company for 4 years, we ended up selling it to a bunch of customers at a bunch of universities with tens of thousands of users on our platform. And having ran this company, it took us 5 years to get to a dozen customers with tens of thousands of users on our platform. I'll save that entire story of how I ran my first company for another video. After exiting the company, I decided to get into content creation because it's something I've always wanted to do. I always thought I'd be good at it, and I feel like I have a lot to say. Creating content has taught me some very fascinating lessons around confidence. And here's my 5th rule that I've learned. no one actually cares about you online. And really think about this one, seriously. You're not as important as you think you are. The spotlight effect is what's called in psychology, where you think everyone's looking at you and everyone's judging you. But in reality, no one cares. And that you should just create content and be silly and maybe embarrass yourself, because the moment you no longer care about what other people think about you and you no longer are afraid of embarrassing yourself, you will evolve as a person. You'll take on more opportunity, you'll create content, and people will actually enjoy you much more. And I've learned that myself, that through my own journey of creating content on YouTube and TikTok, 99% of the comments I get are very positive, and the 1% of negative to me are just fuel. I love seeing them because it drives me to create more content. I do run off of negative energy. It's very strange. Everyone's afraid of being talked about negatively behind their back in private. But the reality is, when you come out with your own content, yes, the people who are going to talk bad about you already now have more material to work with to talk bad about you. But who cares? In the end, who cares? Because if you come out with great content and people really appreciate you, it doesn't matter what these small subset of people who know you since high school say. It won't matter. They have no power over your life. Just create content and have fun with it. Because of my TikTok and YouTube growth, I've now launched a new product that has, in 1 week, gained more users than my previous 5-year company. That is the power of content marketing, and that's the power of influencing. The reality is, when you have a following and you can understand the needs and desires of your following and why they like your content, you can then create products that make sense for your audience and easily sell into them. Providing value to your audience in many forms will bring you new revenue streams. The goal of my channel is to show people how you can use big brain moves, psychology, technology, influence to get your way in life. And just like starting a company, I think that this is a massive market for content that isn't necessarily being created, but people are so interested in. So I'm gonna fill that void. I'm gonna create this content because I believe I have the skill sets in the background to justify why I should be the one in this sector. If you made it to the end of this video and you subscribed, follow me on Instagram. I want to know who my day ones are, my first followers, my first subscribers. Connect me on Instagram. Let me check you guys out, and I'll catch you guys next time.